The bridge of the Starcrasher 7 was a mix of controlled chaos and uncomfortable creaks. Captain Milo Renshaw lounged in his seat, his scuffed boots propped up on the console, as he chewed lazily on a stick of gum. Around him, the sounds of outdated equipment humming, blinking, and occasionally sparking filled the room. Somewhere below deck, a coolant pipe hissed faintly, contributing to the ship's symphony of barely contained functionality. Through the wide viewport, the vastness of space stretched endlessly, stars twinkling like scattered diamonds. But the serenity of the cosmos was disrupted by the looming presence of the Kryval fleet. Their flagship, Crola, hung in the void like a predator waiting to strike. Its sleek, black hull absorbed light, and its jagged form bristled with plasma cannons, missile arrays, and energy lances. Surrounding it was a perfectly ordered formation of warships, their collective shadow casting a grim pall over Earth's orbit. Milo sat up, lazily scratching the back of his head as he surveyed his bridge crew. Ensign Jago was glued to the sensor console, his wide eyes darting nervously over the readings. The young officer looked like he was moments away from hyperventilating. His trembling hands hovered over the controls, as though afraid touching them might set off a chain reaction of galactic doom. "They've locked targeting arrays on us," Sir Jago squeaked, his voice betraying his panic. Should we panic yet?" "Depends," Milo said, cracking his gum as he swung his legs off the console. "How much panic is in the budget this month?" Lieutenant Vega, standing at her station with her arms crossed, cut in with her usual icy precision. "Captain, this isn't the time for jokes. That fleet out there could vaporize us with a sneeze. What's the plan?" "Relax," Vega Milo said, leaning back and gesturing toward the viewport. "You're forgetting the most important rule of interstellar diplomacy." "And what's that?" Vega's tone was sharp, her patience clearly thinning. "Always keep them guessing," Milo grinned, tossing a small treat into the air. A streak of motion followed as Toby, his Chihuahua, sprang up from his makeshift bed near the captain's chair. The tiny dog snatched the treat mid-air, landing gracefully before wagging his tail triumphantly. The bridge crew stared. Toby, oblivious to the mounting tension, hopped onto Milo's lap, circling twice before settling in. Jago turned from his console, his expression incredulous. "Sir, no offense, but I don't think the Kryval are going to be impressed by a dog." "Shows what you know," Jago Milo said, scratching Toby behind the ears. "Toby's got charm, and charm's half the battle." The comm system crackled to life, cutting through the conversation. A holographic display flickered in the center of the bridge, bathing the room in an eerie blue glow. The face of Commander Torox filled the screen, his glowing eyes narrowing as he surveyed the humans. Copper-skinned and towering, with sharp ridges of black armor glinting in the faint light, Torox radiated authority and menace. His deep voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Human vessel," Torox began, his tone dripping with disdain, "you dare to approach the Kryval fleet in this insignificant craft. State your purpose, or be destroyed." Milo adjusted his jacket, flashing his most disarming smile. "Commander Torox, I presume?" "Captain Milo Renshaw of the Starcrasher 7. We're here to discuss the whole invade Earth and destroy humanity thing. Diplomacy, you know. A classic human move." Torox's glowing eyes swept over the bridge, taking in the disheveled crew, the outdated consoles, and finally landing on Toby. The Chihuahua wagged his tail, his ears perked as he tilted his head at the holographic image. "What?" Torox growled, his voice slowing to a dangerous rumble, "is that?" Milo glanced down at Toby, who was now gnawing on another treat. "This. Oh, this is Toby, my co-pilot." For a moment there was silence. Then the metallic sound of Torox's laughter filled the comm link, harsh and grating. Behind him, Kryval officers joined in, their guttural chuckles echoing through the room. "A co-pilot," Torox sneered. "This rodent is what you bring to represent your species. You insult the Kryval Empire with your absurdity." "Toby's sensitive about his size," Milo said, leaning back casually. "I'd watch the insults if I were you." Torox's laughter stopped abruptly. His gaze hardened, the amusement in his expression replaced by cold resolve. Your arrogance is astounding, Earthling. You have 5 Earth minutes to surrender before I obliterate your vessel, and then your planet. The transmission ended with a sharp click, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. He's serious, Jago whispered, his face pale. He's actually going to kill us. Over a dog. Lieutenant Vega's jaw tightened. That's the Kryval for you. They don't negotiate. They conquer. Milo stood, scooping Toby into his arms. The tiny dog wagged his tail furiously, oblivious to the weight of the galaxy's survival on his tiny shoulders. Well, Team Milo said, his grin widening, it's time to show Commander Torox what happens when you underestimate a Chihuahua. Jago blinked. Sir, you don't actually mean. Of course I do, Milo said, popping a fresh piece of gum into his mouth. Toby's got this. Vega's eyes narrowed. This is insanity, Captain. Insanity, Milo shot back. No, Lieutenant. This is diplomacy. Milo paced the bridge. Toby perched confidently in the crook of his arm, as if this were all part of a routine patrol. The rest of the crew watched him with a mix of apprehension and disbelief. Ensign Jago's hands were clamped tightly on the edge of his console, his knuckles white. Lieutenant Vega stood with her arms crossed, her expression one of stony disapproval. Captain Vega said, her tone cutting through the tension, do you actually have a plan, or is this one of those situations where you just wing it and hope for the best? Vega, Milo said, stopping to lean against the console, I always have a plan. That's not reassuring, Vega replied. Your plans tend to involve a lot of improvisation, chaos, and victory, Milo cut in, flashing her a grin. Don't forget victory. Jago, his voice trembling, broke in. Sir, I hate to point out the obvious, but the Kryval aren't exactly known for their sense of humor. This duel idea, it's not going to work, is it? Of course it's going to work, Milo said, turning to Jago. You see, the Kryval think they've got everything figured out. Big ships, big weapons, big egos. They don't know what to do when something doesn't fit their little box of logic. And Toby Vega said dryly, is the thing that doesn't fit. Exactly, Milo said. He's unpredictable. The Kryval can't plan for him, which means we've got the advantage. Advantage, Jago said, his voice climbing. Toby's a dog. A very fast, very clever dog, Milo corrected. He knelt down, placing Toby on the deck. The Chihuahua looked up at him expectantly, tail wagging. All right, buddy. This is your moment. You've got heart, you've got speed, and most importantly, you've got style. Toby barked once, a sharp, confident sound that seemed to fill the bridge. Milo straightened, turning back to his crew. Jago, send the transmission. Let's get Torox back on the line. Jago hesitated, his fingers hovering over the controls. You're sure about this, sir? Positive, Milo said. Trust me. The Kryval aren't ready for what's coming. With a resigned sigh, Jago keyed in the command. The comm system crackled to life, and once again, the holographic image of Commander Torox filled the bridge. His copper-hued face twisted into a sneer. Have you come to surrender? Earthling Torox growled, his glowing eyes narrowing. Or shall I end this farce now? Neither, Milo said, leaning casually against the console. I've got a proposition for you. Torox tilted his head slightly, his expression one of faint amusement. A proposition? You amuse me, Captain Renshaw. Speak before my patience wears thin. Simple, Milo said, gesturing toward Toby, who wagged his tail. We challenge you to a duel. One-on-one. My champion against yours. Winner takes all. No fleets, no mass destruction, just a clean, fair fight. For a moment there was silence. Then Torox's laughter erupted, harsh and metallic. The Kryval officers behind him joined in, their guttural chuckles filling the room. You are bold, Captain Torox said, his laughter fading. But you are also a fool. Do you truly believe that this Rodin can best a Kryval warrior? I don't believe, Milo said, grinning. I know. Torox's gaze flicked to Toby, who barked sharply, his tail wagging furiously. The commander's expression darkened. Very well, he said coldly. If you are so eager to witness your species' humiliation, I accept. Your champion will face Ragnath, the greatest warrior of the Kryval Empire. Prepare yourselves. The duel will commence aboard the Kryvola in 1 Earth hour. The transmission ended with a sharp click, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jago was the first to break the quiet. Captain, with respect, what have you done? I've bought us some time, Milo said, standing and clapping his hands together. Now, let's get to work. Jago, I need everything you've got on Kryval physiology and Ragnath's combat history. Vega, prep the ship for a quick getaway, just in case. And what are you going to do? Vega asked, her voice sharp. I'm going to give Toby the pep talk of a lifetime, Milo replied, crouching down to scratch the dog's ears. We're going to show the Kryval what happens when you underestimate Earth's best boy. Toby barked once, his tail wagging furiously. The hangar of the Kryvola was a vast chamber of polished metal and glowing energy conduits, its high ceilings echoing with the murmurs of the gathered crowd. Hundreds of Kryval soldiers stood on raised platforms, their glowing eyes fixed on the arena below. At the center, a circular combat platform shimmered with the faint blue light of energy barriers. This was the stage for the duel, a clash that would decide the fate of Earth. Milo, dressed in his slightly too worn captain's jacket, stepped confidently into the hangar, Toby trotting beside him. The Chihuahua's tiny nails clicked on the metal floor as he kept pace, his tail wagging as if he were simply out for a casual stroll. Kryval guards flanked them on either side, their razor-edged weapons held at the ready. Across the platform, Ragnath loomed. The Kryval champion was a hulking figure, nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 muscular arms that flexed as he prepared for battle. His obsidian scales glinted under the harsh lights, and his glowing green eyes locked onto Toby with a mixture of disdain and disbelief. This is your warrior, Ragnath bellowed, his deep voice rumbling through the hangar. This insect. Toby paused, tilting his head as if to consider the insult. Milo crouched down beside him, patting the dog lightly on the back. Ignore the trash talk, buddy. You've got this. Above the arena, Commander Torox sat on a high platform, his copper-hued face twisted into a sneer. He raised a clawed hand, silencing the murmurs of the crowd. Humans, witness your folly, he announced, his voice carrying through the chamber. This duel is a mockery, but it will amuse us. Ragnath, end this quickly. Milo stood, hands on his hips, and gave Torox a cheeky salute. Don't blink, Commander. You might miss something amazing. Ragnath stepped onto the platform, his forearms flexing as he let out a guttural roar. Toby trotted forward, his small frame dwarfed by the massive Kryval. The energy barriers flared, sealing the arena and marking the start of the duel. Ragnath wasted no time. With a thunderous roar, he lunged, his claws slicing through the air in a deadly arc. The Kryval crowd cheered, their confidence in their champion unwavering, but Toby didn't move until the very last second. Just as Ragnath's claws were about to strike, the Chihuahua darted aside, his tiny legs moving with impossible speed. The claws hit the arena floor, sending sparks flying. A ripple of confusion ran through the crowd. Ragnath spun, his green eyes narrowing as he tracked his tiny opponent. Toby stood a few paces away, wagging his tail as if inviting another attack. Ragnath snarled and lunged again, this time with all 4 arms. But once again, Toby darted away, weaving between the Kryval's legs with a burst of agility that left the towering warrior stumbling. On the Starcrasher 7, Jago leaned so far forward in his chair that he nearly fell out of it. He's dodging him. Did you see that? Vega stood beside him, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. It's not dodging, it's chaos. He's confusing Ragnath. This has to be Milo's plan. Of course it is. Milo's voice crackled over the observation feed. Toby's a master of psychological warfare. He knows exactly what he's doing. Back in the arena, Ragnath was growing visibly frustrated. He let out a roar, his claws slashing wildly as he tried to corner Toby. But the Chihuahua was always one step ahead, darting and weaving with an almost playful energy. The Kryval champion's movements grew sloppier with each missed attack, his powerful strikes leaving gouges in the arena floor. The crowd's cheers began to falter, replaced by uneasy murmurs. Torox leaned forward in his seat, his claws tapping against the armrest of his throne. "What is this nonsense?" he growled. One of his advisors, standing beside him, hesitated before answering. "Commander, it appears the creature's movements are unconventional. Ragnath is struggling to anticipate its actions." "Unacceptable," Torox snapped. "This is no warrior. It's a distraction." Back on the platform, Toby paused in the middle of the arena, his head held high. Ragnath, breathing heavily, charged one final time, his claws raised for a crushing blow. But Toby didn't dodge. Instead, the Chihuahua sprang into the air, his tiny form a blur of motion. With surprising precision, he landed on Ragnath's back and clamped his jaws onto the base of the Kryvol's neck. There was a collective gasp from the crowd. Ragnath froze mid-charge, his massive body twitching as if paralyzed. The mighty warrior stumbled forward, his legs giving out beneath him. With a thunderous crash, he collapsed to the arena floor, unconscious. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Toby hopped down from Ragnath's back, trotting back to Milo with his tail wagging furiously. Milo crouched down to scoop him up, turning to face the stunned Kryvol crowd. "Well," Milo said, scratching Toby behind the ears. "That was quick. Told you not to blink." Torox rose slowly from his seat, his glowing eyes wide with disbelief. His claws clenched into fists as he looked down at the unconscious form of his champion. "What sorcery is this?" he hissed. "No sorcery," Milo called back. "Just Earth ingenuity. Now, about that deal." The hangar was frozen in stunned silence. Hundreds of Kryvol soldiers stared down at the arena, their glowing eyes darting between their fallen champion and the tiny Earth creature wagging its tail in triumph. Commander Torox remained motionless on his high platform, his claws digging into the armrests of his throne. The defeat of Ragnath wasn't just unexpected, it was incomprehensible. Milo stood in the center of the arena, Toby perched proudly in his arms. The captain's grin was as casual as if he'd just won a friendly bar bet. "So, Commander," Milo called up to Torox, his voice carrying across the hangar, "about that deal. I believe the terms were pretty clear: you pack up your fleet and leave Earth alone." Torox rose slowly from his throne, his towering frame exuding menace. His glowing eyes narrowed as he gazed down at the smug human and his tiny champion. "This is a humiliation," Torox growled, his voice trembling with restrained fury. "A stain on the honor of the Kryvol Empire." "Hey, I get it," Milo said, nodding sympathetically. "Nobody likes to lose. But a deal's a deal, right? You wouldn't want your soldiers to think you're the kind of commander who breaks his word." Torox's jaw tightened. The murmurs of his soldiers filled the hangar, their confusion and unease evident. The Kryvol were a proud species, bound by a strict code of honor. To back out of an agreement, no matter how absurd, would undermine the foundation of their authority. But to let this humiliation stand was equally unthinkable. One of Torox's advisors stepped forward, his voice low but insistent. "Commander, the fleet is watching. If we defy the terms of the duel, it will sow doubt among the ranks." Torox's claws scraped against the armrest as he turned his glowing eyes back to Milo. "Very well, human," he growled at last. "The Kryvol Empire will honor its word. But do not mistake this retreat for weakness. The humiliation you have inflicted will not be forgotten." "Wouldn't dream of it," Milo said with a mock salute. "Safe travels." Torox gestured sharply to his officers, and the hangar buzzed with activity. Orders were barked, and the soldiers began to file out, their movements stiff with suppressed rage. The great engines of the Crola rumbled to life, signaling the fleet's withdrawal. Milo turned and walked back toward the waiting airlock, Toby perched on his shoulder. Vega and Jago were waiting just inside, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and relief. "You really pulled it off," Jago said, shaking his head. "I can't believe it. Toby actually won." "Told you he had it in him," Milo replied, scratching the dog's ears. "Never underestimate Earth's best boy." Vega folded her arms, her sharp gaze fixed on Milo. "You got lucky, Captain. The Kryvol will regroup, and when they come back, they won't be interested in another duel. Probably not, Milo admitted, but that's a problem for future us. Right now, I'd say we've earned ourselves a drink. And a steak for Toby. Across the galaxy, the news of Ragnoth's defeat spread like wildfire. Galactic Wholenet feeds replayed the duel footage on endless loops, analyzing every second of Toby's movements. Commentators marveled at the improbability of the outcome, while others speculated about Earth's unconventional tactics. On Earth, the response was jubilant. Crowds gathered outside orbital stations and government buildings, cheering for the tiny hero who had saved their planet. Earth's best boy. Banners were unfurled in cities across the globe, and hastily made plushies of Toby flew off shelves faster than they could be manufactured. When the Starcrasher 7 docked at Earth's orbital station, a crowd of reporters and fans swarmed the docking bay. Milo stepped out first, waving to the cheering masses. Toby followed close behind, his tiny tail wagging furiously as the crowd erupted into chants of his name. Homemade signs bobbed above the crowd, many featuring caricatures of Toby standing triumphantly atop a defeated Ragnoth. One young reporter managed to push her way to the front of the throng, holding out a microphone. "Captain Renshaw, can you confirm the rumors that Toby's victory was part of a larger Earth strategy to confuse the Crival Empire?" Milo paused, glancing at Toby, who barked sharply. "You heard it straight from the source," Milo said with a grin. "Toby doesn't need strategy. He's pure heart." The reporter blinked. "So, it wasn't planned." "Planned," Milo tilted his head, pretending to think. "Let's call it instinct." The crowd laughed and cheered, their admiration for Toby only growing. In the midst of the celebration, Admiral Weiss appeared, her sharp uniform pristine as always. She cut through the throng with practiced authority, stopping just short of Milo and Toby. "Well," Captain Weiss said, her tone brisk, "you've managed to buy us some time. But you've also put Earth in the crosshairs of the Crival Empire." "That's one way to look at it," Milo replied, shrugging. "I like to think we've set a new standard for creative problem solving." Weiss's gaze softened ever so slightly as she looked down at Toby. "Regardless, your co-pilot has done more for Earth than most could dream. Enjoy the victory while it lasts. You'll be called to debrief soon." "Looking forward to it," Milo said with a grin. As Weiss walked away, he added under his breath, "Not really." Far away, aboard the retreating Crivola, Torox stood alone in his command chamber, staring out at the stars. Behind him, a holographic projection of the duel replayed in an endless loop. The image of Toby darting around Ragnoth, then delivering the final blow, filled the room with its faint blue light. One of his advisors entered cautiously. "Commander, the fleet is prepared to exit the system." Torox didn't turn. "The humans have shown us something we did not expect," he said quietly. "They weaponize chaos. It is their strength and their insult." The advisor hesitated. "Shall we begin planning our response?" Torox's claws flexed against the console. "No, not yet. We will wait. We will learn. And when we return, we will not underestimate them again." The hologram flickered, Toby's triumphant bark echoing through the chamber before the image faded to black. Back on Earth, Milo lounged in the captain's chair aboard the Starcrasher 7, tossing a treat to Toby, who caught it effortlessly. The ship hummed with the faint vibrations of its systems as the crew prepared for their next journey. "Well, buddy," Milo said, scratching Toby's head, "looks like we've got a galaxy to keep on its toes." Toby barked in agreement, his tail wagging as the stars stretched out before them.